Hello, welcome to Curriculum Night. I'm Dan Johnston. I teach math, and my room is 210, but that doesn't really matter at this point. So just a little bit about me. The best way to get a hold of me is by email, which you can see here on the screen, johnstonb@edmonds.widnet.edu. I do have a phone number. I still receive voicemails, but I don't have access to a school phone to make outgoing calls at this point. If you're more comfortable leaving a voicemail, um, you're totally welcome to. I will get that. Um, Edmonds15.instructure.com is what we refer to as Canvas, and all of your courses are uploaded onto Canvas. That's our learning management system, our online place to find and access school. I will go through what my Canvas page looks like, where to find important things there in a few minutes. It's my 16th year at Terrace, started in 2004. I ran track at UW. At the time, I was number 2 on the all-time list there, although we've had a number of good hurdlers come through since then, and so I'm lower on the list now. I got my master's in teaching from Seattle U. My first experience teaching at all was I taught English in Central Asia for a year. English is a foreign language, and I really just fell in love with teaching. Um, and I currently live in Shoreline with my wife and 2 kids. And so, ways to get homework help. Um, Outside of class, 25 minutes is really not enough time to be able to provide all of the assistance that all students are going to need. And so we do have office hours. I've divided my office hours into 2 different sections by class. Office hours, you do not need appointments, just show up. Pre-calculus is from 1 p.m. until 1:40, and Algebra 1 every day from 1:50 until 2:30. And if none of those times work, I'm certainly open to making other arrangements. Just let me know and we can work something out. If you've got, other classes have office hours at that time, you can't miss them or whatever. We can be flexible. And the other way to get help is by email. I do have access to all of the homework that kids are doing. I mean, I can see the work that they're doing and respond individually if you have a question. But usually, sending a screenshot is going to be the best way for me to know this easiest, most direct. I don't have to go and look stuff up. So um, we do have homework in all my classes. We have homework every day. I always give 2 days to complete assignments. So if let's say I assign something on Monday, then rather than you go off in the afternoon and work on your assignment and have to finish it for the next day, it doesn't give enough time, I think, for learning to happen. And if you run into some trouble, I want kids to be able to get some help and be able to do the assignment correctly before it is due. So the idea here is if something is assigned on Monday, it's not going to be due until Wednesday, so that gives you a chance to try it on Monday afternoon. And if you get stuck on something, you need help, it gives you Tuesday to get the help, figure it out, ask the questions, and to be able to complete the assignment successfully and learn how to do what you need to do before it is due on Wednesday. So there are going to be new assignments every day, but each one always has 2 days. So it's not like an every other day kind of thing. Grading. The biggest thing I want to talk about with grading is skill quizzes. It's a competency based approach that I've used for many, many years for grading. So the essential skills for each course, I've identified those from the standards, and each one of those gets graded separately. So for example, there'd be like skill 1 in the gradebook, and you see that in Canvas. Each skill, so the whole list of skills is numbered. They have names in there so that we know, better communication going on. I know what it is, students know what it is, parents know what it is. We can see, okay, this is what this is about. Rather than a big giant test that says, here's everything in chapter 3, and you got an 80% on it. And like, who knows what that means? Nobody knows what chapter 3 is unless you go look it up in the book. And what does 80% mean? Does that mean you really didn't understand anything at a really good level? You got, like 80% comprehension of everything? Or does it mean like you totally understood like 80% of the material and then those 20% that you just had no idea on? So the idea is kind of a more focused and a specific way of reporting understanding and learning so that we can see, here's what your progress is, where do we still need to focus, Where do we still need to get that growth? What are the things that are lacking? Where we've got some misconceptions working to be able to identify those, because that's some of the idea behind more focused uh, way of reporting grades. Each of the skill quizzes um, has 2 attempts. Um, Converting this to do it online and get Canvas to make it look exactly the way I normally would do it in a classroom on paper is not quite the same, but I mean, what is the same right now? So each skill quiz gets 2 attempts. So they'll show up as 2 different uh, things in Canvas. That'll be like skill number one, whatever that's called, skill number one, attempt one, that's out of 4 points. And then there will also be skill number one and whatever, name that is, attempt two. Attempt one is worth 4 points. You get 10 tries to do it. So if you don't get it the first time, there's an option to reattempt a similar problem. You get 10 shots at that. Um, to get anywhere, from 0 up to 4 points. And once you have gotten 4, you got that correct, then that unlocks attempt number 2, which is worth an additional 1 point. If you never get there or never get that right, it's going to be entered as a 0. But attempt number 2 really is just I guess the mastery thing. Like, yeah, okay, you got the easier version correct. Um, in order to demonstrate that you really understand this, you need to get it right again on a slightly more challenging question. So there are only 5 tries on attempt number 2, because at this point, the idea is that you do know what you're doing. You've got this figured out. So um, Canvas won't combine these. It would be awesome if uh, so let's talk about grading. The biggest component of grading, which I want to talk about right now, is skill quizzes. So a skill quiz is a competency-based approach to assessing student learning. Um, Compare this to the alternative of using like a big chapter test or something, where let's say you get an 80% on chapter 3. What does that tell anybody? I mean, as a teacher, I'm like, I know, okay, hey, I've got the whole book memorized. I know what's in chapter 3, and you get an 80%. I'm like, all right, I get some kind of a sense that like probably, it's decent. But does it communicate really to me where the student's strengths are and what misconceptions still exist? Does it communicate anything to the parent or the student who doesn't know what chapter 3 is? Um, so rather than that approach, a skill quiz approach is I've taken the standards for each course, broken them down into what the essential skills are. Each one of those skills is graded separately and reported into the grade book as skill number one. Um, whatever skill number one is for this course, they'll be numbered. Um, Skill number one doesn't ever change. Here's skill number one is always going to be uh, identifying functions. And then number 2 is using function notation, for example, um, something along those lines. So each skill is graded separately. We'll get a separate skill so that we can see here's where students understand things and very specifically, and here's where we still have some misconceptions and we got some work to do. So it's easy to see where we need to focus our attention, or it's easy to see like, wow, you really got this under control and you're totally understanding. That's awesome, right? But it's very clear in communicating in an understandable way. So each skill, like I said, is graded separately. Each is graded on a 4-point scale. I can't highlight on the screen, but I can highlight. There it is. So um, the way this looks in Canvas, while we're doing everything virtually, is different than what I would like it to look ideally, but this is what we're dealing with. So every skill graded on a 4-point scale, but you can see the rubric I have showing here actually goes up to 5. So the idea is that you need to get each skill correct at least twice, right? So if you get it right the first time, you get a 4. That's perfect. Nice. And then the second time you get a skill correct, that'll bump your 4 up 1 more point to a 5. So in the grade book, everything is out of 5. 5 meaning you demonstrated mastery, not just like you got it right one time, but even on the more challenging question, you were able to repeat that performance because you really do understand it. Okay, so obviously there are scores less than 4 that are possible if you have not achieved that full understanding yet. So here's what that looks like in Canvas. So Canvas won't work exactly the same as what I can do if I'm just entering grades, off of paper, entering them manually. So in Canvas, each skill is going to show up twice. I've called them attempt one and attempt two. So there's a lot of numbers to keep track of. So we'll have like skill one, attempt one, and then skill one, attempt two, and so on for each of the skills. Um, so in Canvas, each skill has two portions. Canvas won't combine them. They're going to look like, whoops, they're going to look like separate grades, but it is best for us to think of those as a combined quiz, even though Canvas is going to show them separately. So anything that says, skill five, just put those two things together in your mind and know that really this is a grade out of 5 points, like the 5 point rubric here shows. So we're working out of five, but it's going to be broken into 0 out of 4, and then a separate thing that shows quiz that shows up in Canvas out of an additional 1 point. Okay, so attempt one is worth 4 points. Attempt two is worth an additional 1 point. I've got it set up so that attempt two is locked until you've gotten the 4 on attempt one. So we'll just say, like, together these are worth 5 points, and the better you get, the more points you're getting from 0 up to whatever level of mastery you've demonstrated. You get 10 shots at attempt number one, so it's not like you only get one chance, so you can reattempt similar questions. There's a button you can click if you miss the problem. You can click, hey, show me another similar problem, and you get another chance. The kids know how to do that. Our homework works the same. And attempt number two, the same idea. You can reattempt that, but the idea here is, since you've already demonstrated, hey, I got this right once, I don't want to give a whole bunch more tries. You should be able to get that second attempt in fewer attempts. So you've only got 5 tries on attempt number two, and that assignment or that quiz will remain locked and not accessible until you've gotten a 4 on attempt number one. And the computer will unlock it automatically. That's not something I have to get in there and do. Um, so the whole grading breakdown looks like this. Skill quizzes are going to form the bulk of the grade. We typically have about 3 new skills we're taking each week. I mean, it depends on a lot of things, how complicated is the skill, what else is going on in the curriculum and stuff. In algebra, we have about 30 skills per semester. Again, that's an approximation. Both semesters are not exactly the same. And there will, in addition to skill quizzes, there is also normally a midterm and a final. Although with the online schooling, I'm leaning towards not having a midterm, so we have fewer of these big high stakes tests. In our math department policies, we do final exams because math is cumulative, and really to assess whether you're ready to move on to the next level. Um, we do have final exams, which will be 20%. If we don't have the midterm, then that 20% is going to be kind of rescaled. So here's what the pie chart looks like, just for a better pictorial understanding. So this orange portion, this is the skill quizzes. Each skill quiz is retakeable, so you're not stuck. It's not like a one-time only thing. You could go back, like in several weeks later and be like, hey, I understand how to do that thing now that we were learning a couple weeks ago. It finally makes sense. You can go back, retake it. There's not going to be any penalty in the grade as long as you demonstrate that you know how to do it. You're going to get full credit, and you don't exceed the number of tries that are allowed. Um, Homework is the grade part. It's not as big a part of the grade, but super important. That's where we do our practice and learning and understanding. And if you're not doing the homework every day, it's going to show up in your performance on the skill quizzes. And then the blue portion for tests, whether that means a midterm and a final, or just the final. And if we don't do the midterm, then all the percents are going to be redistributed. All right, so let's take a look at what the Canvas page looks like for Algebra 1. When you log in to Canvas, you click into Algebra 1, you're going to land on this front page, which has lots of important links, which every class is going to have based on the district template. So we've got resources for families and students, individual links to each week in the course. Tech help resources are down here at the bottom. So you can, on the right-hand side, you can see the to-do list. This is my student student view, which is not exactly the same as what actual student view looks like, but it's what they give me. So you've got a to-do list that's going to show up over here if there are assignments for any, well, for this course, but for any course, you got assignments that are not yet done. They'll show up in the to-do pane, which is helpful. On the left-hand side, there's a calendar, which the cool thing about Canvas is when you go to the calendar, it's going to pull in the assignments from all classes, and you can see them all in one place based on their due date. So we can see a couple of things here. First, when an assignment shows up in the calendar, this is the due date, but the name of that assignment is always going to have the date it was assigned in it. So you can see this one was assigned 9/24, and it's showing up in being due October 28th. That doesn't really seem like it makes sense, does it? That's like a month later. What am I? Oh, that's still sorry. It says October at the top. This is still be September 28th, and then October starts over here on the 1st. Yeah, that's how calendars work, isn't it? So one of the downsides about doing skill quizzes and grading them separately is in Canvas is going to make it look like on this particular Friday there are so many things to do, and there are a lot of things that show up. All right, so I've got skill quiz 1, add, subtract integers, attempt 2. So in this particular point in the course, we'd already done attempt 1 the previous week, and so attempt 2 shows up at this point. Skill quiz 2, attempt 2, and you look down, there's like just so many things that show up on that Friday. So it looks like there's a ton of stuff. Each of those skill quizzes, this is like one question. It's not like a huge quiz or a big test. It's just like one question. Can you do this thing? So this is like a minute a piece. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is like if you've been keeping caught up and you're doing your homework, you know what you're doing. This could be like 7 minutes. Maybe you're gonna have to click back out and click into the next one. Um, and then, anyway, you can see everything here on the calendar. The way I would actually recommend finding work, this is what I recommend all the time, is to go to modules. So I'm back on the home page, and I've got the navigation pane. Click on modules, and this is the way everything is organized from my end, is into these different modules. So the Zoom links are at the top, the separate links here for each of the different class periods. There's also a Zoom um, direct link to the Zoom link, different classes and stuff. You can just click on the left side here, click on Zoom, and then everything is organized by weeks. So as I'm filling this currently in week 8, and so assignments will show up here in that week. There's a week overview that's going to have a description of what we did every day and links back to those same assignments. And then there are previous weeks before that. So new stuff always will be at the top, so you don't have to scroll a long way to find it. So we use the Zoom links every day, so that's going to just live at the top, and then whatever week we're currently in will be at the top. You can always go back and find previous weeks. None of these assignments close. There's not like you've only got this long to do it. They're gonna remain open, which sometimes people will be like, oh, well, that means I don't have to do my work right now. That's a big problem. If you're not doing your work and staying caught up, it's going to be super, super difficult to get yourself caught up once you get behind. So the assignments don't close, but that is definitely not a good strategy to use, putting everything off till later. The last thing I want to show you is where skill quizzes are. So on the modules page, they're going to be at the very, very bottom. So I did not want them jumping around. So I've got the Zoom links at the top. They stay there. Skill quizzes at the very, 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 very bottom. So I'm going to scroll down here, all the previous weeks. Here's the resources for families and students that was linked on the homepage. Actually lands here, and then skill quizzes are at the very bottom. So there's a little document here explaining skill quiz grading, which I just explained to you a minute ago, and then each of the skill quizzes in numerical order. So this is the one place where my navigation is different. Rather than new things at the top, this is going to stay in numerical order. So for algebra, skill quiz 1 is add and subtract integers. So here's attempt 1, skill quiz 1, add, subtract integers, attempt 2, right underneath it. So you can see the different point values. And these also have due dates. You can see they both have due dates. They're a week apart. And that does not mean that the quiz is closed. The quiz remains open for the duration of the semester, so you can always go back to do more attempts as long as you're underneath that limit of number of attempts that you're allowed, or sorry, number of tries that you're allowed. Um, but again, like I said with the homework, if you start getting behind, that's can be very dangerous, and then it kind of snowballs on you. You get a little bit behind, and then we've moved on in class to study the next topic, and you're like, I still don't get that other thing. Um, so make sure that you get help when you need it. But here's all the skill quizzes. They stay open for the whole semester, and I want to scroll down through all of them. You can do that on your own. Um, that's what you need to know about. So thanks for watching. Here's my contact information again. I know that was earlier up in the video, but normally I would thank you for coming to a curriculum night and ask if you had any questions, but I really don't have a question and answer for him here. So if you do have questions, please feel free to reach out. Email is probably going to be the easiest, but you can certainly leave me a voicemail and I will return that as best I'm able. All right, bye.